Hi class, this is Professor Brennan. I'm going to talk to you about social penetration theory. And we're going to look at the PowerPoint slide lecture, and I'm going to go through that with you. And it's a theory that is often used to understand how relationships progress. That's basically what that theory looks at. It looks at what we call the breadth and the depth. So without further ado, I'm going to move right into the PowerPoint, so give me a second. There we are. So social penetration theory, I call it a interpersonal communication theory because it does look at, well, we're going to look at, it's a self-disclosure or disclosure is the mechanism for which, I always say communication is the driver of all relationship. Self-disclosure is a mechanism for which scholars look at, researchers look at how a relationship progresses with breadth, which has to do with quantity, and then depth, which has to do with quality. All right. So Altman and Taylor created this theory in 1973. So this theory's been around a long time. And they created this, they came up with this theory in an attempt to understand how do relationships progress? Like what happens in a relationship? How does a relationship become close, right? If self-disclosure, what we learned already about self-disclosure is that is the vehicle toward greater intimacy with someone, which has to do with how close you feel to someone, right? Then that's what they were looking at. How does a relationship progress? How does it move forward? How does it become deeper, closer? So they looked at it as what we call a cyclical process. Okay, notice it's cyclical. It's not like from here to there. It's cyclical, right? And I'm going to give you actually a visual of what you think. But I want you to think about cyclical. Going around, it's cyclical. You coming back around to the start, cyclical, and probably more like this. You're not coming back to the same place, but you're kind of coming back to the same place. So it's a process that depicts penetration. So the word penetration means going in, right? Penetration is back and forth in which the tension between public and private selves always need to be managed. Okay. I want you to put this, you can start to conceptualize this. Let's get to the next piece of this. You've learned about public and private self, right? That public self is the self that you present to the world. It's a self that I'm presenting right now to you, the public self, right? And then you have that private self. That's a self that either only you know about or someone that's closest to you in your life knows about. That is the most intimate part of you, like where all your secrets are, how you really feel, like your deep stuff in there. Could be your dreams, could be your hidden aspirations, your hidden talents, only you show yourself. Could be thoughts that aren't acceptable to society that you keep to yourself. That's what we mean about private self. It's between you, and sometimes it's between you and another person. So there's this tension, right? That's what Altman and Taylor were looking at. There's this tension between wanting to share, which comes out of that private self, wanting to share who we are, and the public self of wanting to keep someone far away. It's this thing of like, come here, go away, go away. Okay, that's looking at the tension, which is normal in all relationships. It's normal to have that tension. It's when that tension stops, the relationship dies. I want you to really think about that. It's when that tension stops, the relationship will die. Because that tension keeps the progression going, keeps the communication happening. So self-disclosure is the mechanism within the relationship, us sharing ourselves, that determines the quantity, the breadth, how much we talk about, and how deep we go, how deep our relation can be. Like, how much are we going to share about ourselves, about our innermost feelings? So social penetration theory has been compared to an onion. I don't know why they picked an onion because it has layers, but I always think of onions being making you cry and being stinky. So maybe it has something to do with that too. I always cry when I cut an onion. Always, and I try not to. But you know what? When you're in a relationship, you cry too, right? If someone matters to you, they affect you, so your emotions are involved. So maybe they picked the onion for a reason, but I don't have a backstory to that. So comparing the progression relationship to the peeling of an onion. So you have to peel the onion layer by layer. So each layer represents that depth, right? The depth of, as you peel through the layers, you're getting deeper to the core of the person, right? The layers almost could be like your public self. So the peeling, the time it takes to peel that is when you're building intimacy. And those layers represent, the number of layers represent like that quantity, right? The breadth. Okay, so here we have the core, the personal or the private self. Intimacy is developing as we go through these layers, and here's the superficial, because truly your public self is fairly superficial. It's what you want people to see. It's fairly superficial. Okay. So each layer represents, okay, remember the public self, your attitudes. It represents your beliefs. It represents your prejudices. I know we all like to think that we don't have prejudice, but we do. We do. All of us have prejudices. We do. Whether we're prejudiced against like a vegetable, okay, that we've never tried, but it looks weird, so we're not going to try it. That's a prejudice, right? It's having a belief about something without having all the information. It's like an uninformed prejudice, an uninformed negative belief about something, whether it's a belief about people or a belief about something, whatever it is. People have that. They have a prejudice against public speaking. Maybe they've never even done it, but they're just afraid of it. Okay, so prejudice, let's get past the word of what that prejudice, but those are the layers. Each layer represents feelings, right? Initially, when you have a relationship, let's just say a friendship with someone, you like them, right? That's just the outer layer, right? We only hang around people generally that we like, because friends are choices. So we like that person, that's the outer layer. And the more time we spend with them, the more we get to know each other, the layers get pulled away, right? There's that time, the peeling of the layers, right? In the other slide that I was talking about. And then the feelings, you start to get connected, and you start to feel a sense of trust, and you're building that through that self-disclosure, that intimacy. And you start to feel like you can share more, you can disclose more, because you've gone through these layers and had this quantity of time together. It's great theory. So all of these aspects, it's important for y'all to know, make up every human being, the personality of a human being. Our personality is made up of attitudes, beliefs, prejudice, feelings, and more, right? Genetic characteristics. That's our personality, whether we're loud or soft, or whether we're whether we laugh a lot. That's part of our personality. I love to laugh. People always comment on my laugh because I love to laugh. I think that life is, for the most part, pretty funny. And I can find the humor in a lot of things. That's part of my personality. Not everybody's like that. Some people are more serious. So all of that, those are layers. So social penetration theory looks at the breadth, those layers, pulling up the layers, and the depth, getting to the core, which is that private self, and the public self on the outer part. So little by little, as someone gets to know someone, they get closer to that private self through self-disclosure. What you're going to have an opportunity to do is use this kind of knowledge in future work in this class. Okay, I hope you enjoyed I hope that you enjoyed this lecture on social penetration theory, and I will be seeing you all later.